We're live. All right, folks. If anybody's out there joining us in from the outside, you're welcome to join us in the StreamYard. Unfortunately, I didn't put the link to the StreamYard in the description, but I'll put it right now in the comments. Anybody who's there, this is our Linger Longer. We just did the Godless Servant 8. Yeah. So yeah, Kendall, you and I were talking a little bit. I got a little bit of an echo. I don't know if you are. Do you have me on speaker?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it is. But anyways, I have Kendall on with me, and we're talking about sensory experiences growing up. Yeah, and being autistic. Oh, it turned off. The what you call it turned off. Where's the damn food? Says Nathan. Yeah, seriously. This is why we got to have. So, like Jenny Gage has been talking about getting some potlucks together and doing potlucks, and that we might do them online. Like we get like little groups together, like wherever you are. And that'll be like little congregations of the Church of Korihor. People bring food, and that'd be fun. I think it'd be great. So yeah. So anybody who wants to can join us. Oh, we got Megan in the studio. Let's go ahead and add Megan in this. Megan, how are you? Oh, she bailed. That's cool. Anyways, yeah, but I think it'd be fun to get people together. It'd also be so. What would be amazing? Hey, Megan. What would also be amazing, I think, is the about this church that meets online. Is that it could be great for autistic people who don't like getting together in person, but do want to have community. So that's what's so interesting to me. It's like, wow, starting a church this way with this modern technology may actually help us to expand in a godless church in a way that God believing churches never were able to. Like we could. It's very plausible Korohorism could be entirely populated by people on the spectrum. Hey, Jules. So yeah, Kendall was talking about an experience on your mission. I hope you don't mind my sharing. I had similar experiences on my mission. We're doing like service for other people and going out. It cost you like the social interaction part for people on the spectrum can be like the biggest sacrifice that you make when you're a missionary. Is that about right?
Oh yeah, Kendall? when I was around people, like I mean, half of it was being in a foreign country in Argentina, but I just remember like my face would get all hot and like my collar would get just like so nervous and anxious because there was just so many people. They were talking, and it was just overwhelming for me at the time.
Yeah, I when I was a missionary, what years were you in Argentina?
2004 to 2006.
Okay, so you're a little after my time. I was in Peru from 99 to 2001, which was quite an exciting time to be in Peru. Without saying too much without saying too much, I watched a dictator overthrow a nation, overthrow a constitutional democracy, and in real time, Alberto Fujimori. But that dictator, they put in prison for it. Anyways, so I got to watch that live while serving down there. And I also saw 9/11 from there and witnessed the outpouring of compassion from Peruvians. People see you walking down the street entitled American with your name tag and your clean white shirt and your tie and everything. And then 9/11, when it happened, I was in a papeleria, getting copies made for my report to. I was a district leader. I was reporting into the zone leaders, and I heard behind me, Nueva York, and I was like, Nueva York. That's from my place. That's from America. And I thought, and I realized I was hearing a news broadcast from television. Of course, we couldn't watch TV, but I was like 2 months out from my mission being over. I'd already figured out that I didn't really believe in God anymore. And I was like, screw it. You know, what are they going to do? Send me home? So I turned around and I looked at the TV and I saw the World Trade Center burning. And I was like awestruck at how surreal it was and felt so far away from home. I mean, it was insane how far away from America I felt. And yet I walked out of that Popularia, and these Peruvians, people who normally wouldn't let me into their house to preach about God, reached out to me to say, I'm so sorry what they did to your people. And it was like strangers. And it was I talked about it in the Korihor argument a little bit. It was like a strange experience. I mean, like totally different. It was like I never felt so many people reach out to me with compassion. So yeah, but being able to, it was interesting because like when I was in Peru, there were moments where we couldn't find anybody to listen to us at all. These Catholics, first of all, half the people we were talking to had already joined the church, or they had joined another church and just stopped going. And so I was like, we got to do something else, Elder. I said to my companion, I said, we got to do something else. And I saw this guy building a second floor to his house, and he had a stack of bricks, like 6 feet tall, like as tall as I was. And I looked up at him and I said, hey, hermano, could you use some help? And he's like, from you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, no. And I was like, really? Why not? Because he's like running bricks up and down this staircase to the second floor of this house. I'm going to bring in the bishop's interview here while we're telling the story. How's it going, Nate?
What's up, bud?
Good. So I'll just tell the story real quick. I'll wrap it up. So I'm running these bricks. And so this guy is like, can you help? And he's like, no. And I said, why? And he said, because you're wearing a tie, is what he said to me in Spanish, of course. And I said, this? And I took it off and just threw it out. And he's like, I'm like, can I help you now? And he's like, I don't want to hear anything about any Mormons. I said, I'm just talking about moving bricks. And he's like, then yes, you can help. And so I started taking bricks up, and I'm pretty sure I did irreparable damage to my back with all these bricks I went up there. But I turned to my companion, and I said, dude, I may have discovered a new way to preach. And he's like, you're insane. And we nearly broke our backs helping that guy build his house. And he's like, we got nothing out of that. I was like, that guy said we could come back and give him a discussion, which he never made good on. But anyways, how you doing, Nate? Do you mind if I call you Nate?
Yeah, that's good. Hey, Kendall, where did you serve?
Buenos Aires North.
Okay. I think my brother might have served in that one. I was in Bahia Blanca.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's where my mom served, was Bahia Blanca. I mean, it was called something different at the time, but
sweet.
I was driving down the street here in Salt Lake the other day, and I saw this thing, and I said, is that, it almost looks like Spanish. There's somebody had this in their window, and I said, that almost looks like Spanish. It must be Portuguese. And then I looked it up I'm like, that's so curious. And I looked it up, and it wasn't Portuguese. It was Spanish. It was Argentine Spanish. And of course it had been, Castellano.
Oh, yeah, Castellano. It's a sin to call it anything else.
Castellano. Nosotros no hablamos el español. Nosotros hablamos el castellano.
Claro.
El español de los argentinos, ese es español. Pero nosotros, los peruanos, sí hablamos el castellano. And they always said it with like this Italian flair, the Castellano.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I texted it to my buddy because I saw the number 10. That should have been the giveaway right there. And apparently it's a messy thing, of course. And I texted it to my friend David, whose mother is from Argentina. He's an ex-Mo. And he said, and he's like, oh yeah, that's messy. And apparently it was the phrase was, que mira, Bobo, anda pa allá, Bobo. Which apparently is a thing that Messi said to a Norwegian football player after like the concert. Que mira, Bobo, anda pa allá, Bobo. And I said, I'm going to say that to you all the time. Que mira, Bobo, anda pa allá, Bobo.
So,
But
hey,
yeah.
Joe.
Mhm.
First of all, so I was late to church. I had a flat tire.
God damn it.
Uh,
I'm sorry about
but,
your flat tire.
that last 10 minutes, man, was so good. I was just telling my wife, like, that was good stuff. You need to clip that shit and send it out. Maybe the whole thing was, but what I caught was great, man. I loved it.
Thanks, man. That means a lot to me. It really means a lot. You know what I mean? We're a bunch of preachers in this here so far. I mean, trained preachers. I don't know if you know this. Yeah,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, just real quick. So I had this. So like when we registered the Church of Korihor, we registered it. I did research on this to make sure we did it right, and I registered as a nonprofit corporation here in Utah, and then applied for the EIN number from the IRS. You do it that way because you could do it a variety of different ways. But if you do it that way, then you're actually recognized as a 501c3 automatically by the U.S. federal government and by the state, so that when people write off on their taxes, donations to the church, they can write it off, and IRS won't challenge it in an audit. But but basically part of that process now to become basically the main stringent point the state of Utah wants is they say you have to commit that you're not going to sell shares. And it's like, sell shares of a church? Who creates a church that sells shares of a church? And it's like, and come to find out, they mean shares of water rights and energy rights of the property of any real estate you buy. And it's like, or mineral rights. And I was like, oh, okay. So basically that's it. And then the other thing is that you commit to defraying you commit to part of your mission is to ease the load on the of supporting the public that's on the state. So basically you have to commit that you're going to use this money that you collect to actually do something that the state's not able to do. And it's like, okay, but the church, but when you register with the IRS, which is free and easy to do, don't go, if anybody who's going to start a church out there, don't go and pay somebody to do this. It takes 5 minutes. You do it on the IRS's website for free. But you get an EIN number just like a normal business. And one of the things you do is that you can check is that this is a church. And you definitely want to do that if you're going to start a church. Don't go saying, oh, no, it's basically a religious nonprofit. Don't do that. Do it as a church. I'm not an attorney, but for good reasons, do it as a church. And then it'll come up and it says, of all the requirements for a church, according to the federal government, according to the IRS, you basically, the first principle that you have to adhere to is that you have a clergy. And that clergy, it says specifically, who are trained clergy. And I looked at it, I was like, thank you, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, for my 2 years of ecclesiastical training. I mean, we got 3 trained clergymen in here. This is a theological seminary going on right now.
Totally.
So, anyway, what were you saying, Nate? Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say our show was really fun. I appreciate that. Had a lot of good feedback. I had one comment. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I don't think I've seen her before on other things, but anyways, it was one hater comment. You'll have to go to my streams comments or whatever, and
Right.
you'll see it. But anyways, first she says skip the song, so I don't know what that meant. Maybe she wasn't liking the opening song or something. But then, which was fire, by the way.
I loved it. I thought it was good. Which one did we do? We did
the country one. What was it?
Ride or Die.
Yeah.
Ride or Die. The wedding song. That's right.
Yeah. Well, anyways, and then she gets into it and she's like basically saying, you guys are like a bunch of middle schoolers. Why do y'all want, why is it always the men that want to talk about sex? I don't need this. This is not the reason why people leave the church. I'm here for, and I'm like, excuse me. She's like, and then she lists off like Mormonism. I like stuff like Mormonism Live and Rebecca and Landon, and I'm like, okay, first of all, yeah, all those shows are great. Second of all of those shows talk about sex. Don't tell me they don't. Third of all, I'm sorry that that she's like, well, this didn't affect me. I'm like, well, I'm sorry that it didn't, but you know, Joe is asking me questions about my experience, and my experience as bishop was oftentimes asking people sexual questions, and that's what we were talking about in that time. But she's like, well, good luck to you. I can't take this anymore. She was just really, really, I don't know, just offended by it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so I figured she would. Anyways, I commented, she commented back, but it's kind of funny. I don't know.
It's interesting. I'm just going to share this with you because there's like lots of great comments on here. Oh man, probably nobody can see this. Anyways, there are lots of great comments on here. This is pretty funny stuff. I'm what you may consider a dry water Church of Korihor member. Great collab, best interview podcast. I've listened to it several months, so people can see that there were lots of positive reviews as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
One of the things though that I've noticed is, and that's true to my experience, is that when you're not ready to transform at all, in when we were religious, we used to say the wicked take the truth to be hard. That's
Right.
actually something to it. It's like if you're not ready for it, your brain will kick it back with, dude, this sucks. You guys are stupid. This is stupid. You and I are both. Are you in the Utah Interfaith Forum on Facebook? I think you are. Are you not?
I don't know what that one is.
We should get you in on there. Maybe. I think you'd find good guests in there. That's where Jacob Hansen found me and asked to be on the show, which I was like, are you kidding? I've been trying to get you on my show. I've been trying to get you into a debate for like a year now. And it's like he sees me on there. So yeah, Utah Interfaith Forum, which is run by Stephen Pinecker. And so he says, but I posted the Light of Reason video, which is where I explained to Jenny Gage this basic concept of that, we are star stuff. And I did the hand thing. You take a random atom from your right hand and a random atom from your left hand. Those are both formed in the heart of a star. And the chances of those coming from the same star is so probabilistically low that it's basically impossible. So that's how many stars died in the making of you. And I thought it was a really good little clip. And the Mormons commenting on that video in the Utah Interfaith Forum, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard you get. Blah, 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 blah. And then there's this one guy who said, even when I was an atheist, I never heard anything so lame. And I was like, well, what was lame about it? And he's like, if you don't know, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I said, this is the most Mormon interaction I've had in a while. So thanks for that. And I called him a soft atheist. I said, I don't know what kind of soft atheist you were, but some of us get a lot out of this. And he was like, soft atheist. I've never heard anything like that. I've never heard anything so dumb. It's like, is that it? Is that all you've got, guy? I was like, man. So it was.
So I think I mentioned on with you that day that I don't care about the hater comments anymore. I can't remember if we talked about that, but
I don't remember.
Anyways, the ones that get on that are just like, like true believing Mormons, and they're like, dude, you're a joke. That just, it's water off a duck's back. But this lady, she's like, look, I've been out for a year, and it was different. I'm like, I didn't like that she didn't like our show, but then it's like, listen, there are 1,001 different reasons to leave. And if we're talking about something that didn't affect you, congratulations. But yeah. I've got a girl coming on. It was supposed to be next Sunday. Oh my gosh. She's blowing my mind with some rape stuff and some just really tough sexual stuff from church. So, I mean, a lot of people have dealt with a lot of things, and I don't know. I was not thrilled that she was so turned off by the topic. I didn't think we went, over the top. We were just mentioning general stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Megan mentions here in the comments, she says, I love the hater comments. Engagement helps the algorithm. That's the philosophy I go with too. It's like, get those haters in here. I tell them, look, get into the StreamYard. Let's fight in here. If there are any haters hanging out right now, get into the StreamYard. Come out here into the Lion's Den. We'll pick you apart. And it'll be great content. But yeah, no, I actually relish I used to have this commenter that I had to ban, unfortunately, because he was saying like things that were basically violent, and I was afraid would get the channel
flagged,
blacklisted. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I hate to do this, but I have to ban this guy. He would come into every broadcast and I'd put his comments up on the screen about the day of judgment is coming. You're blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, yes. Give it to me. This is what core horrorism is all about. So I had to ban him because I'm like, I have to warn you last time, please don't say violent things though. And he wouldn't stop. And so I was like, okay, well, you're banned. But other than that, I love it. I'd love to get some negativity into the comments section in our broadcast because I relish in it. So yeah.
Well, anyways, I just want to tell you it was a good chat with you, and I've had good response. So
good. I'm glad. You guys got to check out the Bishop's interview. I enjoy them. I've enjoyed your shows from the beginning. That's why I was a little disturbed when I went on Culture's Linger Longer and I interacted with you when you were exhausted. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, does this ex-mofo not like me? I'm like, what did I do to him?
My bad, Joe. I was
no.
I would say I think my wife was probably in her lingerie begging for me to come to bed, so I had to get off.
Shit. Dude, in the future, that is the words. Just use that. My wife is in lingerie. I have to go. Yep. See you, Nate.
I'm gonna let
get
you
it,
go.
brother. All right, man.
All right.
You take it easy. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, bud.
You guys who don't know, Nate, he calls his channel the Bishop's Interview. He left the Mormon Church recently after being a bishop, I think, or maybe while he was a bishop. Well, he's still in the church, I think. So that makes sense why he hasn't joined the Church of Korihor yet. No, but seriously, I tell people all the time, don't bother joining the Church of Korihor unless you're passionate about it. You guys can go to korihor.org and become a contributor. For $2 a month, which is the first step towards the path of becoming a Korihor, because we do have costs. It costs me around $200 to $250 a month to defray all of the basic costs of keeping the church running. So, which I'm happy to do and to donate. Starting in February, we're going to increase that to another $250 a month. I actually think I'm probably going to put it up to about an additional $300 a month that I'm going to be spending on advertising on YouTube. Basically, we can get for a dime, we can get a video in front of a pair of eyeballs out there that are the people we are trying to bring these messages of hope and reason to, who are interested in things like Sam Harrison, spirituality, or who are interested in spiritual community after leaving church, or who are interested in ex-evangelicalism or ex-Mormonism, etc. And we'll get as we advertise to these people, every dollar given that we spend on this is going to get 10 people potentially to be aware of what we're doing. So when people go to korihor.org, you don't have to be a member of the church, and you don't have to sign up for a membership to donate. You'll see that there's a link to Korihor to donate to our various missions. You'll see it right at the top of the screen right now, or you just go to korihor.org/donate, and you'll see one of the campaigns is that you can donate to this $300 a month campaign that we're going to use to send these messages out and promote them. For now, I'm just going to pay for it personally, and write it off on my taxes. I tell you that right here and now. I'm going to start writing all of this off starting this month. Yeah, you can join in and you can help us out. We got Kendall still with us, joining on the line. He's in bed, so we're not going. To make him turn his camera on. But we got Megan here in the studio. I'm going to add her to the stage, or to the studio if she wants. Otherwise, she can comment or hold on, let me see here. Oh yeah. Otherwise, she can tell us that she doesn't want to be. Hey, Megan, just want to add you
Hey,
here.
how's it
Hey,
going,
how's it going?
Joe?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the sermon this morning. It was incredibly good. I really enjoyed every moment of it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I just spilled all over myself. I'm so excited. Uh, is that your first godless sermon you've been to?
It is the first live godless sermon I've been to. I've
Cool.
watched parts of the other ones that I also enjoyed, but this one resonated particularly with me because I love Carl Sagan, and it's interesting that you mentioned doing some meditation because one of the main meditations that I do is about the fact that I'm stardust
Really?
and about the idea that we all on this planet are made up of stardust, and it's what connects us to each other. So
Mm.
I would love to collab with you on a meditation. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be baller. Are you kidding me? That'd be amazing. I think we should. I think that'd be so great. We should definitely do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
planning.
would love it.
Do you do any kind of Buddhist meditation or any other kind of practice like that?
Yeah, I actually take meditation from wherever I can find it that resonates with me because
Hmm.
every once in a while I come across a practice or something that's like right for me right in that moment. Oh, this is something I need to work on. So then so I grab meditations from wherever I can that resonate with me.
That's cool. That's cool, man. I've not done a lot in that space. I mean, I do like some mindfulness ever
Yeah.
since I listened to. I toyed with putting it on here, and I don't know if you've ever heard it, but there's Sam Harris's famous "It Is Always Now" from his
Mm,
eulogy. Oh
yeah.
man, so good. I mean, like you talk about people say that atheists can't have religious experience. I usually tell them you should listen to It Is Always Now because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
Sam Harris blows my freaking mind. So yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite meditations also is a chakra meditation that I learned about during my intensive outpatient therapy program that I went through. And it just was, it actually, I was still kind of in the church-ish at the time. Um, but after that meditation, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. But it's something I never would have engaged in while I was a Mormon because it wasn't Mormon. And because it was like decidedly in the camp of not Mormon, it would have been like, I can't really do that because that doesn't align with my religious beliefs. It's
Right.
just amazing how much stuff I turned my brain off to simply because it wasn't Mormon.
Yeah, everything has to go through the filter of, oh, would the church approve of this? Is this okay?
Right. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Like
would my bishop think if he knew I was doing a chakra meditation every day?
I was 14 when I was watching. I had my bedroom downstairs in the basement of this house that we were renting in Mesa with the scorpions. Just me, the scorpions, and my brother who was scared of scorpions, so he eventually moved upstairs. But the but I was watching TV down there, and my sister happened to walk through and walked upstairs and said, "Mom, Joe's watching Xena Warrior Princess downstairs." And my mom calls down the stairs. She said, "Joseph, if the Savior were sitting next to you, would he be happy?"
I love it. He would have been like, yeah, that warrior princess is hot, man. She's great.
Yeah,
Love
I
her.
didn't say what occurred to me, which is, well, I got plenty enough Jergens here for me and him, but no, I didn't say that. I'm just joking. But yeah, it was. So it's interesting that you should say that though, because like now one of my favorite things to trigger a Mormon, and I don't do that much of that with me. Was it me? I think we had Nikki Smithson comment saying, "Was it me?" I think it was you. It was. It may have been Tina. But yeah, that's my flesh and blood sister. It's also my chosen family, Nikki. So yeah, if it was, I was deflecting. Yeah, if it was you, you are you were projecting hard. My sister was full on sleeping with her boyfriend at that time. So I'm just saying. I just outed you, Nikki. It's not like she keeps it a secret. But yeah, this was the house in the Lynn Ray ward, Nikki.
Sorry.
You're good. But anyway, so it was interesting. But one of my favorite things to do to trigger Mormons today is when they say, "Oh, well, this isn't, that sounds like a pagan thing, or that doesn't sound very Christ-like, or whatever." I usually remind them. I say, that Joseph Smith had a Mars knife, right? They had a knife that was just for killing animals in what some would label as a satanic practice, and people and. Oh man, to watch a Mormon meltdown, I try not to do it, but it's just so much fun. I was like, anyway.
Well, I always say, we don't really need to do anything to trigger members except to tell the truth about the church. And so it's like, I'm not ever trying to, but sometimes it happens just because I'm not willing to skip over bits of history that they don't like to think about or talk about.
Right. It's just kind of like what we were just talking about with Nate from the Bishop's interview a minute ago. Is that, sometimes some people, like when we were Mormon, we used to say the wicked take the truth to be hard, or at least I did. And there's something to say for that. People who get triggered now that we aren't Mormon, you got to remember they're looking to get mad about something, and because it's a great way to not grow as a person. And we did it too. I did it as an atheist, when I was a new atheist, did it all the time. It was all about the trolling, all about the hate, and it took me a lot of healing to get to a place where my atheism could be constructive rather than just about tearing down religion all the time, that angry phase, so-called. So
I actually, what I like to say now is that the unhealed take the truth to be hard, because anything that we haven't confronted in ourselves, when someone points it out, either directly or indirectly, we get triggered by it because we know we haven't addressed that in ourselves, So even just us talking about our journey out of the church triggers people who are still in because they haven't yet confronted their shelf items. And they see us that we have, and it shows it holds up a mirror to them, and it forces them to say, why haven't you confronted your shelf items?
That's amazing. You guys, do you realize we just got some wisdom from Megan here? That's so spot on. That's like something. It's not a lesson for us as ex-Mormons or a lesson for us as atheists. I don't even know if Megan identifies as an atheist, or Kendall. I don't know if either of you do. But I tell you right now, that is human beings right there. We all needed to hear that. So thank you, Megan.
Yeah, I don't identify as an anything. I don't like to put a label on anything, because then I think it puts me in a category of being decided about something. So I'm very much in the space of I have no idea, and I love being here because it helps me to consider all of the possibilities that I haven't yet considered.
That's downright
Wow, that's
Socratic
beautiful.
right there.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I have no ideist.
That was Socrates, right? Is the first thing I know is that I don't know how much I don't know.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing is I collect principles that would improve the world. How much better would the world be if we were open to knowledge? But when we're sure and convinced, we're closed to knowledge.
So true. Yeah.
That's right. And what's ironic about it is that for the most part, that's what religion has become all about, is being closed to it. Even atheism, really, the atheist world. Britt Hartley challenged me out on this, and she thanked me. I don't like to brag here, but I did get a thanking from Brett Hartley of No Nonsense Spirituality, and she said, "Thank you for admitting that you're toxic," because I said I this was pointed out to me so many times when I was an atheist and commenting in Facebook shit and stuff about, you are quite a toxic atheist. You know that? And I was like, just because I'm telling the truth, just because I'm out here talking about blah, 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 because I was just an angry atheist. I really have been. And I said, so many times I have said, if it's something religions do, then it is BS. There's nothing valuable coming from it, And I used to do all that, and until I realized that these are human beings who are actually in their millennia, in some cases, of esoteric experiences. These people have learned something by trial and error, and something that if you just turn it away and say, nope, because it's associated with religion or faith or God, then it's obvious BS. You're turning away an opportunity to learn all those thousands of years or hundreds of years worth of experience, all those experiments, and you're just turning that away and saying you don't want to benefit from other people's experience. And that's stupid. That's not scientific at all. And man, since coming around to that realization, I've been able to do so much healing. So it's been good for me.
That's awesome. I love it.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for letting me crash your live. I've really enjoyed myself, and I will be back.
Megan, we are definitely going to do an episode. We should do one this week if you have time.
Yes. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get it on the calendar.
All
right.
Everybody, that's Megan Connor. Check her out. You can find her on YouTube here. She's got a great channel. I enjoy her stuff very much.
Thanks so much, Joe. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. Talk to them. Cool. And once again, people, the StreamYard was on the link from the other page. If people want to join us here, I'll go ahead and put the invite into the comments and the live comments. I think we'll do this. We'll keep going here, and I'll just kind of chat your ears off for about another 20 minutes before it's lunchtime. And then I got to go find something to eat and probably feed these children of mine too. So I do love these kids, and I will feed them if they want to. But yeah, I hope you guys really did enjoy overview, because I thought that I've been thinking about this actually for the better part of the last year, and I have actually written and recorded several versions of overview, and thinking somebody will really get a benefit out of this, and then that internal voice that tells me this is stupid, you're stupid, everything is stupid, overwhelms me as I'm editing it, and I'll just delete it all. But I think that it's very possible. There's that experience, and then overview that I've written up, and I'm thinking about how we can actually do like a guided meditation to experience the overview effect. There's that one, and then I have another one I've been working on for like the better part of 2 years, which is I call the 4 Gates, and that one's based on the teachings of Dr. Rollo May. Rollo May has been one of the major transformative experiences in my life, has been discovering the writings of Rollo May. He wrote in a very academic style, so like sometimes I listen to his books to go to sleep. So sometimes I listen to him while I'm driving, but I try not to, because his writing can kind of put me to sleep. But I often do the audiobooks. I also have his actual books, particularly some of the better ones. My favorite one so far has been Man's Search for Himself. And then there's another one. We have another person just joined us in the studio. I'll bring up in a minute here. Man's Search for Himself was an answer to Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which is the first pop psychology book that was out there. And I got that book because I was so triggered by Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning, if you don't know, is basically about Viktor Frankl's experience in concentration camps in Austria and Germany during the war, where he lost his whole family. And basically in there, he basically posits the basis of what is now known as logotherapy. And I try very hard to give a lot of space to logotherapy to be good, because a lot of people get a lot out of it. I don't think I could do it. But logotherapy is basically this idea that even though objective meaning, meaning a meaning for your suffering that is constant and outside of you, which basically is God, even though it may not be real, You have to live as if it is real, pretend that it's real. Because if you don't, it'll drive you nuts. And I hate that answer. I hate it so much. I still have not come around to a place where I don't hate that answer. I'm like, no, I hate this. I hate this. He's basically telling people believe in God even if God isn't real, like a Pascal's wager. Only Pascal was saying it from an eternal perspective, from saying you could end up in hell forever. Given that you can end up in hell forever, and God decides whether or not you end up in hell forever based on whether or not you believe in him right now, then you should go to church and say prayers to convince yourself of God, because the risk is the risk so far outweighs the sacrifice of just going to church and saying some prayers. Okay, I'm like, well, first of all, never mind the fact that who's to say that saying prayers and going to church is going to convince you that God is real? One. Two, who would actually buy into that, chasing that a God that would judge people on whether or not to torment them for eternity like that is somebody you would want to spend eternity with. So anyways, I got Kendall still on the line with me. I'm going to bring up Nikki Smithson into the chat here, who's going to keep me honest. And I'm going to put this on her. This is my flesh and blood sister, also chosen family. Hi, Nikki.
Hello. So first, I just want to defend myself.
Okay.
Just Jason, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to say that I truly am so proud of you with all of this journey that you've been doing. Like, it's been really fun to watch you grow and develop and be your authentic self, right? And
Thanks.
like through the years, obviously we have the same upbringing and different takeaways, of course, which makes it our journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
The I don't think a lot of people have heard me say outside of my tight knit community down here in southern Utah that where my journey is, because I've kind of kept it close to my heart for a while because I've have 7 children and my youngest just turned 18 in November. So now it's time that I can be me outwardly, right? Because I've done a lot of protecting them. And I mean, we share their stories. I have a rainbow family, like all that we've been through, but only at the level that they're comfortable with me sharing, right? If they
Mm-hmm.
share their story publicly, then I share it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my first religious kind of and I don't know how much you know, I'm sure you do, but my first religious like trauma journey and decision was when I divorced the man that I was sealed to in the temple, said man I was
Wow.
sleeping with in that basement there. But anyways, so then
Not
so
in the
then
basement. What?
there
Really?
was
Where my
a
bedroom was? Ugh.
there was a Nintendo room right next to it, but
Uh,
don't tell mom and dad because
oh, that
like
became my bedroom later.
you were in the room next to it originally,
Oh
but
my gosh. Well, never mind. Never mind.
anyways, when we went through our divorce way young, we had 3 little kids, a suburban, the white picket fence, it wasn't really white, but that type of
Mm,
experience. That was the first time I realized I'm going to have to define it my way. Like
mm,
I'm going to have to flirt with the line, play the game. Like, how suppressing is that,
yeah.
to really navigate that. And then as my children grew up older, they started living their authentic lives. And the thing that I'm so proud of with them is that they've allowed me to have my own journey. They haven't said, Mom, why do you go to church? Why do you not go to church? Obviously, we've had those conversations, but they haven't been telling me you shouldn't. And I
Mm,
appreciate that with my children because obviously I love unconditionally for them to do their thing. I am not active. My name's on the roll these days, but I don't do any practices there. But my kids allowed me to do what I needed to do, and I appreciate that with them. And as they've come out and progressed and lived their authentic lives, I've kind of realized like what's I don't know, stigma maybe is that the word I'm looking for, that the
yeah.
church has really put on my family as a single mom
Mm,
twice. I'm on my third husband. and so like it's a lot, right? And
Right.
does that make me a good person? That's where I struggle to this day, that I'm going through, is like, in the back of my head, the bitch in the back of my head says, like, are you a good person? Obviously I know I'm a good person, but like that feeling, that deep core rooted, and I think you know why I have those, and I live close proximity to our parents, which I love them, and we're making it work and all that stuff, but it's close.
Yeah.
So like I'm working through all that stuff now at the age of 46. Thank you very much. And
Hmm.
and so I just want to tell you, I'm proud of you for living your authentic selves. I know it's been a journey and a half for you, and watching you go through all that you have. And I've read chapter 1 and some of chapter 2 of the Core Horror Argument. How long ago did you write that?
It's been 12 years now since I published that.
I might get through chapter 2 soon. I'm not a huge
Yeah.
reader,
And it's a
but
lot to get through.
and I always, and I was one of the, I bought it probably 12 years ago. I bought it as soon as I knew it was out there, and you
Oh,
told
thank
me you
you.
had written it because I want to know your journey and your perspective of the same upbringing pretty much as mine too. I didn't serve a mission, obviously. I was a baby having babies, but yeah, like it's very, at this day of age for me, it's very interesting to see how you've done, and I'm very proud of you. So I just want to tell you that.
Thank you
And
very
I
much. I
have
just
20
want
blankets for you.
oh yeah, great,
Yeah.
great. I just want to. I'm just going to bring this up here real
Sure.
quickly so people out there can notice this. Nikki and I, growing up, were mistaken for twins all the time. I mean, because we're basically like a year apart. You were born in January of '79.
Correct.
I was born in August of
80.
80. And
Right.
so people, as you see, people thought that we were twins all the time. They said that she was the pretty one, though.
Oh, you're so
And
nice.
I think that's I think that there's a debate to be had there. Who's the pretty one?
Listen, I've lasered all my facial hair off, so that's good. I have just as
I
much as you do, I'm sure.
I might laser it to get more. See if that works.
I don't think that was how it works.
Is that not how it
So,
works? There are so many
no.
products out there that try to sell men on that you can grow a thicker beard, and
Yeah.
some of them actually are light therapy products. I don't know if any of them work. I don't make many comments about light therapy products because my day job I work for a light therapy company.
I've been there, done that, right?
Yeah, Nikki's worked for them before. So, anyways, well, Nikki, thanks for coming on. I really
Love
do
you.
appreciate that, and
No
I love
problem.
you very much.
I love
We'll
you
get
too.
those blankets from you.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
That was cool. That's cool. It's been a while. I'm going to bring Kendall back up here in case Kendall has more comments here. We're going to stay on for another 10 minutes or so, friends. Anybody who wants to join us in the chat or join us up in the studio, the link is going into the chat. Yes, she's the pretty one, says Nate. Well, you know what, Nate? That's the end for you. That's the band hammer for you. Just kidding. Yeah, no, Nikki and I, Nikki was there for all of my journey through my I don't want to talk too much about my childhood trauma, but she was there. She got a front row seat to the trauma. So it was a big deal. And so yeah, it's nice to be able to have some family who are still with us. Nikki mentioned real quickly, she lives in close proximity to my parents. People often ask me when I talk about leaving the Mormon church, what my relationship to my parents is like. And this is especially other ex-Mormons, because of course, a lot of ex-Mormons out there have really bad experiences with their parents. And a lot of Mormon families, once you leave the church, you're not part of the family anymore. And they won't see you. I've met, I can't tell you how many ex-Mormons who will tell me my parents won't even see their grandchildren because we left the church. And so I tell people all the time, it's like, compared to that is one alternative. My relationship with my parents is freaking great. And they are good people. They're sweet people, my parents. Frankly, but I think probably the ones, I kind of always knew that about my parents. But the ones that I've been really impressed with are my wife's parents. My in-laws are very Mormon. very, very Mormon. As a matter of fact, we just saw them for the first time that I've seen them in years, just about a month ago, when I launched the Church of Korihor, which I didn't think they knew about. Apparently, Molly had told them. I launched the Church of Korihor the same month my in-laws went on a mission. I didn't know that until I got the email, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to be coming through town because we're training at the MTC." So my in-laws are on a mission for the Mormon Church right now in Tennessee. And I saw my father-in-law real briefly. Apparently, my father-in-law had said to my wife, had said when she told him, "Yeah, Joe started a church for atheists, they call it the Church of Korihor," and apparently he had said something to her about, I guess it turns out he'd missed church more than we thought, right, or something like that. And I know he did it in a good-natured way. I've had several good conversations with my father-in-law, who's a very good man. He actually ran, and I guess technically still owns, Mesa Counseling Center down in Arizona, in Mesa, Arizona. And basically, people, if you know Mormons from Arizona, from Mesa, they probably know my father-in-law, Dave Shumway. And it was him. I actually have learned a lot from him. I actually have learned quite a bit from him, because I told him back when I was newly married, I was still toxic about depression. And I had told him, I was like, people take antidepressants and it's like, it's all BS and blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me and he's like, "Do you not take antidepressants at all?" And I'm like, "No, are you kidding me? Do you know what the studies show about the antidepressants?" And that was a big kick for me back in the day. And he's like, "Who do you think you're talking to?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess you." I'm like, "You prescribe people antidepressants?" And he's like, "I can't, but I refer them to a doctor there in my practice, and he prescribes it to them." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "But do you know what, the side effects of antidepressants and things?" And he looks at me and he goes, I get people on and off of antidepressants all the time." And he's like, "And I got to tell you, you are so wrong." He's like, "You're so wrong." And he's like, these medications save people's lives. And he's like, "Yes, it's true that you could have adverse reactions to it, and you have to stay on top of it." He's like, and he says, "But," I said, "But I mean, do you really think depression is a mental illness, like really a mental illness?" And he looked at me and he said, "I think you, like a lot of other people." "Oh, Nate, are you in Tennessee? I know you're in the South. I don't know why I thought you were in Georgia or Virginia." Anyway, but he says, a lot of people have the misconception that the pathology of mental illness is the same as it is for physical illness. He said, and it's not true. We can't open up your brain without killing you. He's like, so we don't know except by your experience of what you tell us. He's like, and it's true that it's a much newer science. And so there's a lot about it that we do wrong. He's like, most of it, we just have to admit in therapy, we do it wrong, but we're at least trying, we're at least doing it, and then using evidence-based therapy to improve. And then he's like, and then we get together and we improve on it. He's like, if we could put a thermometer in your brain and fix you, we'd do that. If we could put a what do you call it? What am I thinking of? A stethoscope to your brain and see what's going on inside there, we would do that. But the fact of the matter is, we only have your feelings to go by. We only have your words to go by. We have the experiences. And he says, and so he said, in our field, the thing that you can, the metric for the pathology of diagnosing mental illness is if it prevents you from living a normal life, from functioning in life, it's illness. And never mind the fact that we don't always know all the ins and outs of what causes it or how to treat it. You got to look at it like a wave, right? If it makes you less functional, it's illness. If it makes you more functional, it's treatment. And he says, and then we just use what has worked so far to try and make it more functional. And he said, and and then like ever since he told me that, and he like rewired my brain about this, I've realized how many things my father-in-law and I fundamentally disagree on, because he sees everything, including his treatments. When now he's on a mission, so he's not doing treatment. Well, I don't know, maybe he is, but he's. But how many of the things since I've met here in Utah, I have met people who did therapy with my father-in-law. Here in Utah, I was working late one night. I was working the graveyard shift at a gas station to try and save money to buy a house before I abandoned that hope. And a guy came through, and he was drunk as a skunk, just drunk off his rocker drunk. I mean, just 4 sheets to the wind, just crazy, just wild drunk. And it was one of the people that I had to tell him, past 1 o'clock. Is it still in American Fork here? Here in Utah County, most parts of Utah County, past 1 a.m., you can't buy beer anywhere. And so we turned the light off, and people can still get into the beer cooler. And so, but I have to explain to them, if you're getting beer in there, you can't buy it. You have to drive out to Eagle Mountain. Eagle Mountain, of all places, strangely enough, is one of the few places in this valley where you can buy beer all night long. Go figure. In Alpine, which is right up the street from where I live right now, where I am right now, you can't buy beer at a gas station at all. It's a dry county. It's a dry city. So anyway, but just go up to Eagle Mountain. You can buy it all night long. Go figure. This guy comes up and he starts talking to me. And he's like, I'm not even from here, and he was drunk. And I'm like sitting here, like, how long before I have to technically call the police and tell them to come pick this guy up? And he's like, I'm an alcoholic. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, surprise. And he starts telling me about doing therapy in Arizona. And I come to find out, talking to him, like, was this at Mesa Counseling Center? And he's like, what? I'm like, did you do your alcohol rehab? Did you do that with Dave Shumway? And he's like, how do you know? It's my father-in-law. And he's like, you married, and I think he said, you married Wendy, which is my wife's sister. And I'm like, no. I think Wendy's actually older than I am. I don't remember. I don't know. And I'm like, no, the youngest. And he's like, Molly? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're married to Molly? What are you doing here in Utah? I'm like, oh, I came up here for business anyway. But I realized, talking to him and some other people, I later messaged my father-in-law. I'm like, do you remember a guy, blah, blah, blah? And he's like, yeah. What? How do you know him? I'm like, he wandered into my store to buy beer late one night. And he goes, oh, damn it. He's like, are you kidding me right now? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, that guy. He's like, I hope you directed him to, get help. I'm like, he wouldn't have taken it from me if I had. He's like, probably. So anyways, but yeah, so it's been an interesting experience talking to them about how my father-in-law's therapy, like if you weren't Mormon, he'd tailor it to your needs. But if you were Mormon, Mormonism was a big part of your therapy. It was all about learning from your Mormon perspective. Like they would talk God in therapy. And when I was younger, I remember thinking, that is so wrong. Like this should be a secular environment where you don't bring God into it. Nobody's going to get treatment that way. And, but then talking to people who did therapy with my father-in-law and particularly did drug and alcohol rehab. He's my father-in-law is a survivor of addiction himself. And realized that for somebody who believes in God to talk to somebody else who believes in God, and that person in therapy telling them about why they could be a better son or daughter of God, is fundamentally transformational for that person. And so if that's what their brain needs, then that's what they need to get. Then it's a good thing there's somebody out there who shares their experience, shares their values and their beliefs so that they can do this. I actually learned that talking to, and I've told this story. Maybe some people are sick of hearing about this. Oh, wow. Interesting. Sorry. Comment distraction. what was I saying? uh, shoot, was talking about therapy and my father-in-law.
I'm bringing Mormonism into it.
Yeah, I'm bringing Mormonism into it. Shit. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, it was a good experience. But yeah, I don't remember. Anyways, abandon that story. I saw this. I watched this show called Game Changers. If you guys know Dropout TV. You familiar with Dropout TV, Kendall?
No, never heard of it.
Yeah, so basically, it's the same organization, I guess, as what used to be College Humor, and Sam Reich runs it, and he's the son of Robert Reich, the former Secretary of Labor. Anyway, so he has these games. They're improv games, and he has these comedians who come on, and one of them he gives them prompts, and one of the prompts is tell a story. And ADHD is like tell a story and then ADHD abandon it. And it was so funny. This guy, I think Zach, I forget his last name. It's like Oniyama or something like that. He's like tells a story about going to get pizza with his friends, and he tells like the whole story of the pizza parlor. He tells the whole story about his friends and which friends were there, which ones weren't those, and then the middle, and then he goes, and we got pizza. And it was so funny. You guys got to watch Dropout. It's so funny. It's great stuff. Well, you guys, it's been over 10 minutes. We didn't get anybody else joining in. I'm very grateful to have had Nikki on, my flesh and blood and chosen sister, on the show. I will say this before we wrap things up. Nikki mentioned that she doesn't share anything that her kids haven't publicly shared. One of Nikki's children is a trans influencer named Casey. I don't know Casey's handle on the internet, or how she promotes her stuff. But yeah, anyways, but Casey has been pretty amazing, doing everything from I've seen her do like makeup tutorials. There's one where she took her brother and did makeup on him, and it was kind of fun. And so Casey was the first trans person in my close circle of people, and watching her transformation has been amazing. My sister Nikki, you guys met just a minute ago. She mentions that she has a rainbow family and that she has this tight knit community. She has a company called Our Family Designs, and they make trans and queer themed apparel and items, like merchandise. And people can purchase, and they go to a lot of pride events, and people buy these designs from them, these materials that they create. And basically her whole family is involved in some aspect of it, whether it's designing the merchandise, printing it. They have my 3D printer. I hope she's actually able to use that. I bought a 3D printer and got sick and tired of trying to balance and heat the pad on it. If you guys know 3D printing, that can actually be a real pain in the ass. I finally just gave up on it. I'm like, I'm never going to use this enough. And so I gave it to her. She also has laser printers, and she has like vinyl cutters and stuff. And she, working on my parents' garage, she makes these cool designs, these cool things that people buy and that are mostly themed for the trans and queer community. And so she works on that all the time. And so she has a rainbow family. Pretty much all of her kids are, some flavor of not straight and not straight or not binary. And now I have one. Those of you who don't know, I have one child who is trans. Words out on the last one, on my third one, who we call he, him because he's pre-verbal, because he can't tell us no, or can't tell us otherwise. And so he's identified male at birth. So we call him he, him. But he likes wearing dresses a lot, which, I get it. And if he's comfortable in it, we send him in it. It's like, he's dressed. It's great. If he's happy, let him experience it. So we have at least one trans kid, and then maybe another one. My oldest is an amazing young woman who has just turned 18. I very much love her and encourage her experience. It's a strange thing to be raising a family in this day and age, where we have to reassess all the values that we had. In We're Going Home, I talked about, just like the Apollo 13 mission, our guidance computer isn't working. By that, what I was referring to was scripture it isn't working. All the traditional parenting advice that we get from our parents, it doesn't work. And you got people like Jordan B. Peterson out there trying to resell it to people, rehash scripture. Then he does like these sermons. They have their version of Korohorism, the Jordan B. Petersons. Jordan B. Peterson, by the way, I'm very much convinced is an atheist, and a closet atheist. And he is, I think, doing so much more harm than good. I do think he is doing good. Like I said, some of these people need to hear it from their perspective. But he basically preaches God as somebody who doesn't necessarily believe in God to other people. And Nikki's telling me everywhere that if you guys are interested in Casey's work, you can look up the Casey Blake. Which lucky for her, that was her given name. It's lucky for her that it was gender neutral enough that she could still use it once she transitioned. So she doesn't have to have a separate dead name. But the Casey Blake, you should check her out. She's got great stuff. Now I'm distracted again. So anyways, I just ADHD'd out of a second story. So anyways, this has been a fun little Linger Longer. You guys got to experience my autism a little bit raw, so that's always good. At least it's separate from the sermon, so that in the future when people look up that sermon, oh yeah, We're Going Home. So I mentioned that in We're Going Home, that our guidance computer not working, it's like the Jordan B. Petersons and our parents and this boomer generation has been trying to rehash Christianity in a more in a less of a denominational way, shall we say, and try and sell it to us that, hey, if this worked, I heard Jordan B. Peterson actually said this recently on his show on the Daily Wire, which I don't watch and I do not subscribe to and don't encourage anybody else to, but I get clips of it in my YouTube feed. And he says, I encourage people all the time to remember that the way people are doing it, that the way people have done adulting or parenting, you should just do it the way other people have done it for generations. Just do it their way and don't ask questions about it. And I was like, I mean, maybe I'll come around on this, but me personally, I'm like, no, I'm against that. And it doesn't work because that's how he becomes so transphobic, homophobic, and toxic. And his followers do too. I mean, I respect that a lot of people get a lot out of things that he says, and not everything he says is wrong. Of course not. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who everything they say is wrong. But I think that this guy is way overhyped, and because all he does is repackage and resell Christianity, and basically in this way that I was talking about, Viktor Frankl basically rehashes the same ideas, even though I don't think he is a Christian. He's Jewish, I believe. And frankly, I think Viktor Frankl was an atheist too, but basically sold people on, that you have to believe that there is a God and act in accordance with these principles that are handed down to us because these past generations, you just have to trust that they know what they were doing and just act as if it's true. And I'm like, okay, you can take the things that are valuable from those things and combine them with truth and not lie to yourself. And so that's why it was so important for me to to pick up on Rollo May's work, because Rollo May basically wrote an answer to this and said, and Rollo May, for those who don't know, I talked about how William James wrote the book Varieties of Religious Experience, which I'm getting into now that I've healed enough that I can even think about that. William James was certainly, I think, an atheist. I don't know, maybe not, but certainly agnostic. And but he recognized as a psychotherapist the value that religion plays in society. Like I say, it's only been really recently, before I launched the Church of Korihor, that I've been willing to admit, okay, yes, I can see how religion plays a valuable role in society. Even Hitch used to say that, but I had to come around on it, let me tell you. And basically, that was in the early 1900s. In that same time period, you have the original guy who was Freud, the original psychoanalyst. And original psycho. And between Freud and Jung, they basically shaped all of the way that psychology, psychotherapy started, and mainly in Europe. And at the start of psychology, they incorporated a lot of philosophy. Oh, Jules was already subscribed to the Casey Blake. That's my niece. She's a treasure. She is one of your treasures, Jules. And back in those days, philosophy, existential philosophy, like that of Schopenhauer and Camus, and who else am I thinking of? I'm blanking a little bit here, but basically, existentialist philosophy played a crucial role in shaping the way that psychology was created and the way that therapy was created. And while that was going on in Europe, William James came home or brought it home to America and started the movement here. And he wrote his first book. I forget what it's called, and I haven't read that book. But he wrote basically the textbook, what is essential now reading and learning for people who study psychology here in America. Again, I haven't read it. And his second book after that, I believe it was Varieties of Religious Experience. And well, the guy, Rollo May, was a minister in England, or in Greece at first, and then traveling throughout Europe in the years leading up to the outbreak of the war, World War II. And he got a front row seat to watching fascism mount up out there. And while he was out there working as a minister, a Presbyterian minister, so basically of the Mr. Rogers variety, and he was teaching English and working as a minister. And while he was there, he interacted with a lot of people who were part of Freud's psychology and psychiatry movement. And he learned about psychology and became fascinated with it, decided to quit the ministry, come home to America, and study psychology. And he had studied in the Sigmund Freud-based method, while everybody here in America was learning the William James version. And because he had learned the Sigmund Freud method in Europe, mainly, and learned about it in Europe, he brought that therapy with all the existential philosophy still part of it to America at a time when everybody was going off in this new direction that William James had pointed them down, which is a totally valid direction. Eventually gets shaped into logotherapy, and this idea that you have to act as if God is real so that you can have meaning and value in life, and meaning for suffering. And he brought back with him this, what became known as existential psychotherapy. And he became the father of what's known as existential psychotherapy, which is basically the original psychotherapy. It's the therapy they were doing in Europe that I think William James probably just didn't put a lot of value or stock into. And basically it was this idea that you need to be able to use this existentialist philosophy of being able to look at life as it actually is, what actually exists, accept your existence and the truths about your existence, and find wonder and meaning within the context of truth, within the context of how you actually live and how people actually live. So when he read Man's Search for Meaning, again, this book that really triggered me, I've tried to get people, Richard Dutcher tried to turn me onto this. Well, he didn't try to turn me onto this. He told me that he had posted on Facebook once that he had just finished reading the Man's Search for Meaning again. And Richard Dutcher is the American filmmaker, Mormon filmmaker, father of Mormon cinema. He and I have been friends in the past. It's been a while since I talked to him. And he's apparently a preacher now here in Salt Lake. Go figure. But he was talking about, I reread Man's Search for Meaning, and he said, and I knelt down and prayed for the first time just the other day. And he's like, and I felt so connected in my life as a post-Mormon, felt this connection to God. And I had like left a comment about, well, I respect your journey there, man. Good for you. I'm gonna help you. I'm like, I cannot find any meaning in God. And I said, and frankly, I hate that book, this Man's Search for Meaning. But I'm glad it's doing good things for you. But when I was in the midst of a real serious crisis, existential crisis, I discovered that book and I had to put it down. I was like, I hate this. I hate everything about this. I thought it was interesting to learn about the Holocaust because that's one of my passions in life, is to learn about World War II and particularly the Holocaust. But I'm like, I hate everything with where this guy's going with this. It's so triggering to me. And so all my religious trauma was triggered by Man's Search for Meaning. And I was reading online. I'm like, is anybody talking about this? That Man's Search for Meaning can be more triggering and not helpful at all. I've since come to have a little more respect for it, by the way, since talking to Brett Hartley about it. Brett Hartley said, "Oh, I love that book. I reread it every year." I was like, "Really? What do you get from it? I don't get it. I'd love to know what it is people get from this." And
it's about
she
empowerment. Like,
it's about
no matter your circumstances, you still have choice, and you can choose hope and resilience. That's what I got out of it when I read it.
Oh, cool. I love that. Well, if it does that for people, then I'm glad. And like I said to Richard, if people are getting that out of it, awesome.
Yeah, the most quote from it is something like, I'm paraphrasing, but like, no matter your circumstance, no matter what they take from you, they cannot take the final human freedom, the choice to choose your attitude, whatever your circumstances.
That's cool. Maybe I got to give it another chance. I think what it was.
Whenever I read books, I catalog all the quotes. I can send you the best quotes from it if you want.
Oh, that'd be better. I'll just read the quotes. I'll get the condensed version. That's nice. They ought to publish a condensed version of that book. I love that. Maybe I'll give it another chance, though. I think maybe I was just in a bad place. But Britt Hartley told me she rereads it every year. And she recommends it to clients all the time in her spiritual director practice. So anyways, I mean, maybe I didn't give it, but I tell you what, he couldn't reach me with. I found an article in Psychology Today of a guy saying, if you find this triggering, if you find that this puts you off, he said, then you definitely have to check out Man's Search for Himself, which was the answer that Rollo May wrote to Man's Search for Meaning. And Rollo May basically says, look, it's not, meaning is fine and meaning is great, and everybody needs meaning to make sense of your suffering. Because if your suffering is meaningless, that's misery. And so he's like, yes, everybody needs meaning. But the idea that you have to believe that it is objective, basically, it's my summary of May's work here, is that if you start to think that meaning is objective, that it comes from God, then chances are it's going to trigger in you something that's going to be unconstructive to your future. And he said, but the other side is that once upon a time, especially in American history, we all had this sense of meaning. We all had this sense of direction and purpose. And I don't think that he was. I don't think he was including in that, for example, people who grew up in slavery and things like that. I think he was taking a perspective from a white man's perspective of privilege. But he was saying, but he said, it's only been in this modern age, especially since the invention of atomic weaponry, that we have begun to realize that we have the power of the gods, that we have the power to destroy humanity. And it's made human beings extremely lonely. And he died in like 2003, I want to say. So he never actually experienced the rise of social media, which is just taking whatever that is and made it even worse. And so it was quite an experience to me. Basically, his theory is like psychotherapy is supposed to make the unseen seen. It's supposed to reveal to you what you don't get about yourself. And I thought it was very transformational. Between that and Love and Will, these are like some of the most important books, most important reading I've ever done. It is hard to get through, though, because he does talk with that very academic style. Well, guys, we better abandon this because I got to go feed this family of mine. And we've gone over a half hour longer than I intended to. But I want to thank everybody who came out to sermon today. And I want to thank everybody who came out to Linger Longer with us. I'm hoping to get some more sermons scheduled on the books from some other people. Definitely got to get some more Jules Del Sol in some of these sermons. We definitely got to hear more from Jenny Gage. And then as we experience the overview, then we'll get some really good feedback, and maybe we'll get some more people in here who will help to educate me and you guys on how we can do this better. So thank you guys very much. Should we do a closing hymn? It feels so Mormon when I say that. Let's do it. All right. Let's have Kendall pick. Kendall, what hymn should we do? You want to provide you with options?
Yeah.
We got More Money Than God. We got Lick My Cupcake. We've got We're Going Home. Oh, Korihor. We've got the new one, Like Korihor, which is our latest one from this week. And then there's
the theme of reason, critical thinking, that kind of thing, like open thought. Any with those themes, that's kind of my jam.
Yeah, that'd be like let's say that'd be more like We're Going Home. Should we do that one?
Sure.
All right. We're Going Home. All right, friends. We're going to close out with this closing hymn. I want to thank you all for coming out to sermon today. And please join us on Wednesday. Make sure that you are subscribed so that you get all the notifications. We are going to get Megan Connor. She and I have been talking for a while about coming on the program. And there's a possibility, if not this week, then next week, probably, that we'll have Natasha Helfer able to come on to the show. She and I are going to talk about our interview that we did for my failed documentary, Mormon Sex, which now I'm increasingly thinking may just need to be released as a product of the Church of Korihor. But I'll have to talk to some people before I do that, because I don't know that I really have permission from like Jennifer Finlayson Fife to release that interview. But her interview was so incredible. I learned so much from these incredible Mormon women. At least Natasha Helfer has been excommunicated now, so I think she identifies as Exmo. But I might be able to get her on the show soon. So until next time, my friends, we're going home.
Guide me by morning light, keeping home in my sight. with doubts and dreams take flight. We flash in the dark, so let's flash bright. On a mission to save ourselves, break with dogma, with these shelves. My friend, if you choose to be free, I'll light your path if you'll walk with me. We're going home to where we'll find a world where life is worth the climb. One day we will crash and we will die. Oh, my friends, that's not tonight. No more shadows in our mind. Leave the fears and past behind. On this pale blue dot, we will make our stand. Light within, we will be your hands. We're going home to where we'll find a world where life is worth the climb. One day we will crash and we will die. Oh, my friends, that's not tonight. By math and science, our path is clear. Strangers once, our re-entry nears. Sighting land, we'll quit this sea. I'm going home, who will come with me?